Have you ever wondered if you should have a piece of property surveyed before you purchase it? I'm Carrie Fischer with the Keefer Fischer team at 5 Star Real Estate, and I am here with Gary Hahn and Tony Krager of Wightman Associates in downtown Kalamazoo to help us learn a little bit more about the importance of getting a survey done before you purchase a piece of property. So, hi guys, to start, would you be willing to share a little bit with us about who you are, your role at Wightman, and how long you've been there?
Sure. You want to start?
Hi, Tony Krager. I've been at Wightman 9 years now. I've worked at a couple other firms before this. I've been in surveying since I was 16 actually, working summers, so my entire career has been in the surveying field. Here at Wightman, I do boundary surveys, residential stuff, but my specialty is construction staking. I'm actually the construction staking practice area lead for Wightman and its 4 offices, so nice.
I'm Gary. I'm the Kalamazoo Director of Surveying here in our Kalamazoo office. And I've been with Wightman for just over 40 years now. Started right out of high school. I'm a 1990 Ferris State University grad with a Bachelor of Science degree in Surveying and Mapping, different from engineering. And I'm licensed to survey in Michigan and Ohio. And I'm also the Kalamazoo County Surveyor. I was elected in 2008, and I'm currently serving my 4th term as the county surveyor.
I love it. So 40 years at Wightman.
Mm-hmm.
How many years has Wightman even been around?
75.
Oh my gosh. Wow, I had no
years.
idea. Okay, so you've been there half of their life.
That's true. That's true.
I love it. Okay, well, let's start with the basics. So, what exactly is a survey? Can you tell us a little bit about what it is, if there's different types?
Sure. Well, there are many different types, but most people who call us in need of surveying are interested in knowing where their property lines are. So they need a boundary survey. With a boundary survey, we'll come out and look for and verify any existing parcel corner irons that are already there, or we'll set new parcel corner irons if necessary. Sometimes if it's a particularly wooded site or particularly hilly, we'll be asked to set additional irons on line at various intervals to make the lines more discernible. So if somebody wants to put a fence up, they'll know exactly where to put the fence. Lots of other reasons to have a survey. If you're buying a piece of property, it's good to have a survey so that you can catch existing property line encroachments before they become your problem. If you want to build an addition to your home, you're going to want to know where your property lines are so that you don't inadvertently violate building setback ordinance requirements. A tree blows down that's near the property line, you're going to want to know who's responsible for cleaning it up, or if you want to remove a tree, you're going to want to know if it's yours or your neighbor's so you don't get yourself in trouble that way. So lots of different reasons for having your property surveyed. It's just pretty important to do that. Tony can tell you a little bit about some mortgage inspections.
Yeah. So what are the risks? Like I know many times, and maybe it used to be where people would have to get a survey done to purchase a home, but now they can buy a home and the title company and the lenders don't require surveys. So I'm sure there are a lot of risks that you guys see that are associated with not doing that.
Yeah, like Gary touched upon, risks of before, it's good to know before you buy it if that fence is over on the neighbor's property and you were told it was yours, or if that shed out back is creeping back into someone's property behind you. Things like that are great to know ahead of time, honestly. And like you said earlier too, mortgagee inspections, like lenders and banks used to require. We're kind of to help alleviate that as well, to say, hey, we're loaning money on this building or on this new construction, and is it on the property? So just kind of a little something to have in their pocket that, okay, this is on the right place, it's on the right lot. So.
You had a case a few years back when mortgagee inspections were required more often.
Yeah.
Where one wasn't done.
Right. It was a new development, so the developer/builder owned all the lots or units. they were, someone had bought lot 62, let's say, and they were building a house on lot 62 based on where the builder and developer said. We get called out there to do a survey. Lot 62 is over here and nobody's being built on it and it's empty.
Oh my gosh.
So they were building on lot 63
Oh my gosh.
because they didn't have anything done ahead of time. But luckily the developer still owned the other lot, so they could just do some quick claim deeds and cleaned up pretty easily. But if that had been sold or put to a different owner, who knows? They could have doubled the price on them, or you never know. So
Wow, that's crazy.
A nightmare.
yeah.
Or if it was a different type of lot. I mean, what is
Correct.
it?
What if it didn't
Yeah.
fit the house that they wanted to build? Or,
Right. Or was
Exactly.
it, yeah,
Different zoning.
Or if it's shaped or
walk out.
walk out
Like,
on a
walk out.
cul-de-sac or
Right.
yeah.
So speaking of that, I know sometimes people will, we'll go do a showing of a house and a buyer's like, well, what do you think my property lines are? And of course we're like, without a survey, I can't tell you that exactly. I'm like, we can certainly go outside and see if we see any kind of stakes. Are there generally the metal pins in the ground? So if somebody goes out with a metal detector, could they attempt to find their corners?
Definitely, yeah. So whenever a piece of property, whenever a plat is recorded or a site condominium is recorded, the surveyor who recorded that is responsible for setting irons at the corners of the lot or the unit. So generally speaking, especially if it's a newer development, you should find irons at those corners. Lots of times though, those at least the front irons are set near telephone transformers or other fences that have been constructed, so they can be difficult to find. Our metal detectors are specially designed to look for and identify vertical irons or irons.
Iron.
So yeah,
Not wires,
Exactly.
copper, things like that. So it's made to only find steel or iron.
right, so we'll be able to find an iron where somebody with just a standard metal detector probably won't be able to find it. So,
Out of curiosity, how far do those go into the ground? Is it substantial?
well, no, initially they're typically set flush with the ground. And
I
then-
mean, but how far
Oh,
into the ground? do they
18
go?
inches.
Oh,
is
18.
Michigan law is 18 inches.
Correct,
Okay.
yeah. The concrete monuments you'll find at
Yeah.
block corners, those are 3 feet long,
Wow.
Wow.
And how big around are they?
4-inch diameter.
Okay. Is it illegal to remove them?
Yes,
Yes, it
it's
is.
a misdemeanor.
Good, that's good to know. Or cover them up?
That's a good question. I've never been asked that.
Yeah.
I doubt that there would be anything against the law in hiding, and that's a good point. As time goes by, the irons, even the ones that are set flush with the ground, will begin to be harder and harder to find. As lawn clippings and leaves decay over the years, we'll find irons that were set flush with the ground. They'll be a foot down over the course of 100 years or so.
Wow.
Yeah.
But your detector will find them?
Yeah, we can usually find an iron even if it's 4 or 5 feet
3 to
deep.
4 or 5
Yeah.
feet.
Okay.
If only it were illegal to remove the wooden stake that you stick there with the pink
Right.
flag. We'll have people that you'll see the pink flag and they're like, oh, that must be it. But even still, somebody could have moved those, right? I mean, it's,
It's just a marker showing what's in the ground, which is the legal part of it, correct?
Right, and we always advise our clients, especially if there's a contentious situation going on at the property line, to come behind us with a metal fence post and drive that next to the iron rod so that they can more easily find it or know if somebody moved the iron rod, because that happens sometimes. Or if asked ahead of time, we'll come with an iron rod or a metal fence post.
Are they
So
hard to
that-
remove if somebody?
Fence
finds
posts
them?
are, you're going to need a shovel to get a metal fence post out of the ground.
Yeah.
In subdivisions, I've seen people, homeowners, put little pieces of PVC next to or around or next to the irons, just so you don't have a big fence post sticking up in your
Yeah.
yard. Just something small that is a marker.
Yeah.
right.
And it might be, what's the word I'm looking for? Tempting to set that PVC pipe right over the iron, because now you're marking the exact corner. But if you do that, it makes it very difficult for a surveyor to know that what's in that PVC pipe is actually a survey iron. So, just, makes things difficult on the surveyor in the future.
I see. So, and when someone orders a survey, like I know we did a survey of our property and we just wanted to know what our corners were. But we didn't actually have it on a piece of paper. So, when somebody orders a survey, right, they can get the report and the piece of paper that shows the diagram as well. And what does a survey cost? I guess, how does somebody go about ordering a survey?
There's different types. So you have the boundary where you just come out and find, mark, set the corners, and then there's the boundary with drawing, let's say, which is the report, which will show everything that, you know, what's found, what was set, measured and recorded distances around those parcels, those
Encroachments.
lines, any encroachments, if any, if there's fences, sidewalks, etc., and building overhangs, even things like that.
Does that include easements too?
Typically not.
Typically not. That could be an addition. You can always request it, and if you were supplied title commitment, you know, supporting documents for, you know, additional fee, of course, we can add those things to the drawings.
And what we need in order to quote a survey typically, and in order to do the survey, is the legal description of record, which is the description that's on the deed or title work. Lots of people like to give us their tax description, but those are always abbreviated. They often create or include typos, and sometimes they leave out really important information about how the property is actually described that has an impact on how we survey the property. So we always ask for that. in
Oh, that's good
advance.
to know, yeah. Okay.
You said something about easements and title work. So we always make sure people understand that title companies are only required now to look back 40 years in a title search.
Did you say 4?
40.
40. 40.
Yep.
Okay.
So they're only going to be finding recorded easements that date back less than 40 years. And so if you really want to know for sure whether or not there are recorded easements on a property, you have to request that they do a full title search for the easements going back. You know, they'll ask you how far back do you want to go. We typically recommend that they go back to at least the 1920s or so, and typically that's going to uncover any recorded or most recorded easements. And that's important because most of the easements that impact properties these days, you know, have been in existence for more than 40 years. So.
And would most of them have been more for utility type or
Typically.
railroad or something like along those lines?
Sure.
Or access,
Yeah.
ingress, egress.
Okay. Okay.
As far as costs go,
right.
that's honestly a case by case. I mean,
Yeah.
there is no. I mean, you could give a range that goes from $500 to $25,000.
Right.
So I mean,
On average, maybe a city lot in downtown Kalamazoo, are we talking 500? Are we talking 1,500? Or both?
Downtown Kalamazoo is a little more difficult.
Yeah.
The properties have been around longer. A lot of the original evidence that was set when the properties were first created and laid out is gone due to sidewalk and fence construction. So I would say generally an average cost for a lot survey in downtown Kalamazoo would be about $1,200. And that's without a drawing. Drawings range somewhere between $500 to $600 depending on the piece of property and what needs to be shown.
So on like a meets and bounds or an irregular, say it's acreage, how many stakes do you typically put in for something like that? Is it at every turn? It's really.
Sure, every corner.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Mhm.
So you could put in a whole bunch.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
and additional if needed, if they want them every 100 feet across, you know, a quarter mile because it's going through the woods,
Yeah.
and things like that, so they can see from point to point to point.
Do you get a lot of poison ivy?
It happens, sure.
I got it looking for the station.
In our yard, the years I was in the field, I think I only had
You
one
get it
summer
walking
where I
out the
didn't
door.
have poison ivy.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my, yeah.
Do you ever just do like one side of a property that meets a neighbor, or do you have to do the whole lot?
We don't have to do the whole lot, but we always tell people most of the time it's not that much more expensive to have all the corners surveyed versus just 2 for one line. We typically need to go to the other corners to look for evidence there to help us verify the evidence we're finding on the line that they want surveyed. So, you know, if it's a lot and a plat, the cost difference between doing all 4 corners versus just 2 is usually $50, maybe $100. So,
So I would imagine if you're doing like a 25-acre parcel that's really has, you know, very irregular, you're charging more for every corner that you're putting a stake in? That's
typically, yeah.
Okay.
But, yeah. I'd say 95% 5% of the time or more,
It's
we're
based,
doing the whole parcel.
yeah, and based on the length, you'll have to go around the parcel for, so yeah, the addition of all the legs as you're calling them around.
Mhm.
How accurate is the GIS mapping to the,
That is
Oh,
a
good question. Great
Right.
because we
question.
get a lot of buyers saying, well, I don't need to do a survey. I look it up on the GSI mapping, I know exactly where all my
Sure.
boundaries are.
Yep, they should be very cautious because it's a pardon my French, it's a crapshoot. You just don't know. It depends on how the aerial imagery was brought in and how the tax parcel lines were overlaid.
Overlaid.
Yeah,
and-
we'll see them off 20, 40, 60 feet at times.
It's a
There's
lot.
there's
Well,
kind of a,
That is a
it personally happened to us because
Huh?
our line, the one line's going right through our garage, and then on the other side, it's going right along the driveway of our neighbor. So it's almost like it's shifted
mhm.
on the aerial, like it needs to be shifted back.
Yeah,
So it's just interesting, like if we were to get a survey, really where it would show.
Mhm. Whenever somebody calls and says, hey, I see an aerial map that shows my neighbor's garage is on my property, we'll always ask them if that map came from a GIS,
Okay.
Geographic Information System. And if they say yes, then we'll say, well, it's not 100% certain that that's the case, so you might want to do a little more investigating before you invest in a survey. Might save them some money. There's a kind of a running joke that GIS stands for Get It Survey.
Get it, survey, that's a cute one.
Well, so along those lines, just to summarize, if you plan on purchasing a property, it sounds like your best bet with the least amount of risk is to have it surveyed.
Definitely.
Correct.
So call these guys down at Wightman Associates in Kalamazoo.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.